Hurts in the shotgun. A touchdown would win it for the Eagles. Hurts pulls it, throws, intercepted, game over! Intercepted, game over! Deion Henley, game over, the fourth interception, Tony Jefferson. Unbelievable, Unk does it.
The ball always finds Tony Jefferson.
And it was tipped to him. Unbelievable way to end this game. For the second week in a row, Tony Jefferson with a huge interception.
Oh, Tony Jefferson calls game. Matt Money Smith calls game as well. Chargers win in overtime, 22-19, after an incredible diving tip from Chargers cornerback Cam Hart. It's been their secret sauce all season, these cornerbacks. And yes, Tony Jefferson, who a couple of years ago was in the scouting department of the Baltimore Ravens, gets the game-winning interception, and the Chargers survive in one of the nuttiest games of the entire season. I was watching it at SoFi across the street here, Shook. Did it look as stupidly entertaining on TV as it was in person?
Absolutely. Do you love slop fest? Do you love crazy bounces of the spheroid that we call a football? Then you're gonna absolutely love this game. Do you love it when a diva receiver lets a ball go off his hands for an interception, and then you see three turnovers happen in one play, an interception, a fumble, and another fumble? This was great. It was highly entertaining, even if it wasn't precise, well-executed football all the time.
Well, they wrote that book back in the day, like the greatest game ever played, the game that changed football, Giants, Colts. It's like there was 7 turnovers in the first half of that game. So an ugly game can be great. And this was great. I don't know if it was the greatest game ever played, but it did include 8 fumbles. 5 were recovered. I believe we got up to 7 turnovers. 4 of those were Jalen Hurts interceptions, which was, more than he had by far all season. But yeah, when they were driving at the end of the game, that play reminded me just a little bit of the Malcolm Butler play, in that it felt like one team is going in for a game-winning touchdown. Obviously, they're not on the goal line or anything. And instead, in 1 second, you hear Matt Money Smith on that call, a touchdown, could win the game for the Eagles. Instead, it completely flips. Matt Money Smith said he's been calling games. I just saw him walk by with Daniel Jeremiah. He's been calling games for 15 years. He has never blown out his voice before. He could not speak before. Like it cracked, it was over, and it was that kind of game. And maybe I shouldn't be that shocked, because for every good play that Jalen Hurts made tonight, and he did have a good drive at the end of regulation, he got them into position there, into overtime. There was another play where he was just half a second late, and he let the Chargers make plays because of it.
Yeah, and I hate to start with the negative, but it's pretty clear to me at this point in the season with the Eagles and their dysfunctional offense that is constantly stuck in the mud, that if they just operated with a sense of urgency that they display in key moments, they'd be a much better team. Like when their backs are against the wall and they have to produce, they move the football. They do it well. Jalen Hurts steps up in overtime and throws a bullet to Devonta Smith on 3rd and 16. He finds A.J. Brown on a quick slant that moves them into field goal range just before the end of regulation. Like they're capable of doing this. It's just that they're overcomplicating everything. And he's holding onto the ball a little too long. And it's almost as if the perfectionist in him is trying too hard to make the perfect play instead of the play that his instincts tell him to make. And that is a huge reason why they're just so stuck right now and why they end up losing games like this. And he commits the amount of turnovers that he did tonight.
Yeah, it's so funny because he plays such a safe brand of football. Like that's his biggest problem.
Too safe.
Right. And yet the last couple of weeks, it's suddenly like the one thing that he had as a superpower, which was avoiding these turnovers, is suddenly turning around on him. Hell, he had 2 turnovers, as you mentioned, in one play.
And here comes a blitz from Deion. Can't get there. Intercepted. Big man. Oh, and the ball is out. And the ball is out again. And the Chargers fall on it. My goodness, that's an interception, a fumble recovery by the offense, and a fumble recovery by the defense. Let's get it all sorted out. When it's all uncovered, it's Troy Dye that's got the ball.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man. Troy Dye, who also had a big forced fumble, I believe, in the game. Wasn't it on special teams? I'm losing track of how many different fumbles there were in this game. Yeah, I thought like, man, I've never seen 2 turnovers in one play like that. And then my son Walker, who was next to me at the game and is in the control room right now, literally being our video playback operator. He's hitting the button for the highlights, which is incredible. He was like, no, there was 3 turnovers in that play. And yes, apparently that, according to Elias Sports Bureau, yeah, that's the first play they have on record that one person committed 2 turnovers in a single play. You never know what you're going to see.
You know that we love our listeners, right? So one of our listeners reached out to me via Instagram DMs. Andrew Khalil said, hey, can you and Greg please look into whether or not anyone else in NFL history prior to Jalen Hurts has thrown an interception and fumbled the ball in the same place? So I asked our research team, and they said, according to the information system that they use, that it's the first 2 turnover play committed by a player since at least 1991. So we saw history tonight. Wasn't the greatest game, but we saw history.
I mean, you said it by pointing out like the good throws that Jalen Hurts had, like the Devontae rip over the middle. I made a comment when he nearly threw an interception on a pass over the middle in the first quarter. They called it a pick, and then it was overturned upon review. It's like, well, that's why Jalen Hurts doesn't throw the ball over the middle, and Eagles fans are getting mad in the mentions and everything. And actually, he did have a couple really nice anticipation throws over the middle in this game, but like for every good play that they make, for every play that A.J. Brown makes tonight, you mentioned the drop that he had, and he had really 3 or 4 passes. Yep. You know, the first throw of the game could have been a long touchdown to A.J. Brown. He can't bring it down. There's another play, I believe it was the last drive of regulation, not overtime, right, where Hurts throws it up on 3rd down, and I'm watching that pass, and I'm like, Brown is well covered. I don't know about that. And actually, he put perfect amount of air under it, and A.J. Brown could have made a play. And A.J. Brown, even though he gets 100 yards, like didn't make enough plays in this game.
Yeah, and I think we had 3 total drops, at least off that tally. And it's kind of mystifying because it is a receiver who usually has very sure, very strong hands, losing the battle at the catch point against a defensive back and really on his own volition, just by dropping these passes. And it also like, it's a great example of the Eagles. Now they started the game with this, but they also had this 3rd or 4th down tendency to just say, F it. We're just going to throw it to A.J. Brown down the field somewhere and 1-on-1. They did it again in overtime before they hit that 3rd and 16. And it just kind of points to me the dysfunction of this team overall, because what has been the narrative with this team throughout this entire season? A.J. Brown is unhappy. It's a nightmare, as he once described it in different words on a Twitch stream. And then when the opportunity presents itself for him time and time again in this game, he fails to deliver. I mean, the ball over the middle that ended up in an interception was a high ball, but it hit him right in the hands. Just a shocking display of a lack of execution from one of the best receivers in the NFL.
Saquon Barkley has a big play in this game, and we'll listen to it in a little bit. But I do want to point out how like the success rate for both these teams running the ball was actually really poor. There was a lot of negative runs by Barkley that put them in bad down and distance situations. Kimani Vidal got most of the carries for the Chargers. Their success rate was even lower. Make no mistake, this was a defensive game. Not only the turnovers, there were 27 drives in this game, which is an incredibly big amount. Weren't we talking about a game on Sunday where one of the teams had 6 drives? Like the Eagles in this game had...
It was the Broncos game. Broncos Raiders.
Broncos had 6 drives. The Eagles had 14 drives. The Chargers had 13. And yet the Chargers still didn't crack 300 yards. And the Eagles didn't, I don't believe, until overtime. Like the Chargers somehow survived a game where Justin Herbert throws for 139 yards. This was such a strange game. He is their leading rusher, despite them being very run heavy. Their leading receiver is Kimani Vidal, who had exactly 1 catch. And it was on the 3rd play of the game. It was like a 60-yard dump off to Vidal where he gets loose on the sideline. They really couldn't get anything going consistently on offense except for Herbert scrambling. And yet, despite all that, I think Herbert played a pretty good game. How would you describe this Justin Herbert game as they get to 9-4 and they keep winning games this year that in the past you would say, oh, they're going to Charger this one, and instead they're finding ways to win them?
They do. That's the defining theme of their season, is that they, in games in which they would charge it away, they're doing the opposite. They're winning these games, which I don't know if that's emblematic of a regime change and a culture change taking effect. I don't know. We'll unpack that eventually. But what I will say is that for as many takeaways as they got, they couldn't turn anything into points. Justin Herbert led them in rushing. A guy with a broken left hand with a pad on it, trying to stiff arm defenders with a broken left hand, leads you in rushing. How about this? You don't want to talk about, like, this is why numbers, you don't scan the box scores, guys, on the next morning. I know that people used to do it with the newspapers, and now you do it with the internet. Don't do it. That is not defining this game, because he finished 10 of 21. I believe that was his passing line. He was sacked a career high 7 times. He completed a career low 46.2% of his passes. He posted the lowest passer rating in a win in his career on Monday night, and he won the game. And he's been sacked 6 or more times in 3 games in his career. He's 3-0 in those games. This crazy. Justifies the idea that he's Superman, because he's overcoming incredible odds that are against him.
That's all absolutely true. It's so hard to pick apart Herbert in general because of the team he plays for, and especially this year, because everything you said is true. And he had 3 or 4 really awesome throws tonight. He did not have any open receivers. That really stuck out. One of the reasons why he kept holding the ball, I'm watching it. I got the all 22. We're up in the third section, and
got it live.
And like, they're just not creating open receivers with formations, with motion, with rubs, with anything. Guys are covered. And he had some nice plays where he was on the move and he would, like, throw it over the middle, and he had some sidearms. All that said, something DJ and Money said to me, and I totally agree, was going to be one of my big points today, is he left the pocket without any pressure a lot. I think he got spooked fairly early in this game, with good reason, that, like, the pressure was not going to, his protection was not going to hold up. And when it did hold up, he would just leave anyways. But it's kind of hard to blame him when you're just watching Bradley Bozeman be like, hey, Nakobe Dean, would you like to just blitz up the middle? Why don't I just let you walk right by me again and again? They're running the same blitz over and over. It's not even a blitz some of the times, because it looks like they're going to rush 5 and it's only 4. And so it's hard to blame Herbert too much. And some of his runs where he made people miss and obviously showed toughness were among the biggest reasons they won this game. So overall, like, I think he played great. And yet it's a systemic problem that honestly has me pretty worried. In the wrong matchup, basically against any good pass rush, they're going to be in trouble.
Yes. In fact, Nakobe Dean got home so often that the one time he was an unabated rusher, like just complete free rusher to Justin Herbert, he ends up whiffing on a sack attempt, and Herbert turns it into a positive gain on the ground, because I think he was probably surprised that he didn't run into Kamani Vidal for the first time all night. And you're right. And things got worse once they lost Trey Pipkins to injury, the right tackle, and they had to replace him with another body. It's been the story of their entire season. They cannot stay healthy up front. They have different offensive line combinations every week. But I think 2 things can be true here, in that Herbert did play really well, given the fact that his stat line does not reflect that. And at the final score, while they win by 3 points, doesn't reflect that, because he had to overcome so much. But he also did step up into pressure at times. Greg, if you had to guess, what do you think his average time to throw was tonight?
Like
3.21 seconds, which is far too long to hold on to the football behind that offensive line. But I think you're absolutely right that at times he didn't trust his line and felt like he needed to do what Deshaun Watson used to do in Houston, which is break clean pockets, because he didn't trust his offensive line. And not to say that the pocket was clean all the time, because it wasn't, but it just felt a little bit unnecessary. And yet they find a way to win. They have to give a game ball to Cameron Dicker for hitting all these field goals to win this game. Is it a viable path to success down the road? Probably not. Big reason that you should be concerned about this team, but we should also give credit to their defense for playing good ball and stepping up in the big spots.
Look, Jim Harbaugh thinks it's a path to success. He's playing this way the whole game. He's kicking field goals on 4th and 2 in the red zone, and it's working for him. He kicked it also on a punt when he had a 4th and short, kind of in the middle of the field, where most coaches at this point are going to go for it. And I don't really blame him.
Of all people, Troy Aikman pointed to analytics on the broadcast and said, analytics says you should go for it here, but that's not Harbaugh's style.
No. And I think about the first drive of the second half, which took 10 minutes long. I believe it was like, 16 plays, something like that, and went 60 yards. Like, they ended up kicking a pretty long field goal. They actually had Cameron Dicker kick 2 field goals, 16 plays, 42 yards, and took up about 10 minutes. And I was like, this is what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. He's like, oh, we're winning by 4? Like, I'm going to treat it like it's 21. They only had 5 first downs passing the whole night. Like, it is Harbaugh's dream to just go 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards. And they do have a couple good running backs. Yeah, I love what I saw out of Hampton tonight, showing some explosion, and I love that they kept Vidal like very active. He's a good pass protector. Hampton's just coming off the injury, and it's a good 1-2 punch. But man, they just had too many drives. On a night when they had 13 drives, there was only 4 where they had multiple first downs. So it is going to be really hard for them to win games. But in the AFC, how many defenses have that good of a pass rush? Not many, and they found a way to beat this one tonight.
I'm thinking about a potential AFC West showdown in the final few weeks between the Denver Broncos and the Chargers in Week 18, and how gross that game truly could be. Because you have a Broncos defense that is good, you have a Chargers defense that's playing its best ball of the season right now, and you have two offenses that are inconsistent. The Broncos are getting better offensively in recent weeks, but we know what the Chargers are. We saw it tonight. This is unfortunately largely their ceiling, unless Herbert can connect with his receivers and they can get open, which they did not tonight. So how gross is that Week 18 game going to be if the Broncos are playing their starters and it matters? It could be one of the grossest of the entire season.
I know we should pick up here a little bit, but I do want you to give me something on what you saw out of their defense, because I think that is a big takeaway to me, that Jesse Minter has come out of the bye week being more aggressive. He showed a lot of cool like designer blitzes, which he is not known for. I thought it was very effective. It's one of the reasons why I picked the Chargers tonight. Adam Rank wasn't the only one. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the Chargers social. Loved it. I thought they would
roast me.
I thought they would prevent the big play, which through the air in the end, they got some breaks, but they did. They only gave up 1 touchdown, and their cornerbacks have played great all year. Their pressure was good. And I thought that the pass rush was a good plan tonight. What did you see?
Yeah, I love the way that they're deploying different blitzes where they'll show us a sim pressure on one play and a real pressure on the next. It complicates the picture for opposing quarterbacks. But what I really like more than anything is their continuity at every level of their defense. Since they've gotten Khalil Mack back from that elbow injury, they've been a better defense. I love their defensive interior. Deshaun Hand drops back in coverage tonight. Jalen Hurts is never expecting a defensive tackle to be near the line to gain. Throws it right to him for an interception. That was the multiple turnover play. And it starts with the defensive lineman picking off Jalen Hurts. So that's a great product of good design, catching an offense by surprise. I love what T.R. Tart has done throughout this season. There was a game earlier this season where he's deflecting like every third pass with his hands at the defensive line. They're active up front. Their linebackers play good ball. They like this rotation with Denzel Perryman in on the early downs, on the running downs. You put Troy Dye back on passing downs because he's more athletic. He's younger. He can move better. I love what their secondary is doing. It's not just Derwin James anymore. It's Cam Hart. It's Tarheeb Steele. Excuse me. It's Tony Jefferson, Unk back there making plays. Like, they play cohesively at every level. And no, they don't have a ton of star power necessarily, but they're playing together. And I think that's what matters the most.
And they rotate their cornerbacks, and it's really worked. Dante Jackson, for people who have not watched the Chargers, has been one of the best free agent pickups in the NFL this year.
Yep.
I'm shocked by it because he struggled in Pittsburgh, but they have a bit of a secret sauce. Reminds me a little bit of the Chiefs, where almost any cornerback they bring in, like even Christian Fulton, who came from Tennessee, whether it's guys that they inherited from the previous regime, like they just coached them up and they're all playing well. And so it's Jefferson, it's Benjamin St. Juste, Cam Hart had that big play. Tarheeb still was running step for step with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith throughout the night. And it's a really good defense. So if you have a really good defense, a team that plays hard, it has talent on offense. Like Herbert has some skill players around him. Maybe they can make up for that huge weakness, but man, it is a huge weakness. Shout out to the Eagles defense too, by the way. Jordan Davis, Ojimo, Jalen Phillips all had 6 pressures, and then Hunt and Byron Young had 4. So it's like they had 5 guys with at least 4 pressures, which is just an outrageous amount for one team.
And they did that, without Jalen Carter in there. I thought that was a big part of Jordan Davis's performance tonight, was kind of plugging the gap and making up for the loss of Jalen Carter by just being a menace on the interior. And I think Nakobe Dean's had a really good run as of late too. Like Jahad Campbell, I thought was going to be a big part of this defense that he hasn't really needed to be because of Nakobe Dean.
Yes and no. I think the last 2 weeks he has been boom or bust. Watching him live, especially, like he was on the wrong end too early of some negative plays where he was a little too aggressive. He's got to finish the play. He kind of reminded me of Derwin James, who I thought the Eagles were actually picking on early. He made a couple plays of his own too, but sometimes they used his aggressiveness against them. Man, that was a crazy game. I give the Chargers fans some credit on a night where the Eagles fans took over that stadium, and they're booing the Eagles at some points, and they're making it loud for the Chargers offense at other points, and the Chargers fans are getting loud too. We're leaving the stadium, and we're packed like on our way out of there, and Eagles fans are outnumbering the Chargers fans for sure. But there is a hearty "Let's go Chargers" chant, and I was like, is a fight gonna break out right now with my son right here? Like, I'm actually a little surprised by the chutzpah of the Chargers fans, like staring at all the Eagles fans in the face and chanting a big "Let's go Chargers." So the Chargers fan have some toughness, just like that team, even if they're overmatched a little bit.
Hey, man, they set the tone in preseason 2024. Welcome to the field, Jim Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers.
That's right. Going all the way back to that first preseason game we were at. We have one more highlight. Chris, should we run it just to give Walker another chance to press the button? It's up to you.
I mean, he has been killing it.
Okay.
It is flawless, so I think we should put him to the test.
I do like that we've been talking about maybe it's the end of the tush push, but maybe not when the Eagles are finally getting explosive play running a variation of the tush push.
Center. Hurts with a quick pitch out to Barkley. He has the first down and more. 40, 30, 20, 10. Touchdown! Saquon Barkley!
You're not going to catch him.
Lead.
You're not going to catch him. It's a 53-yard scamper by Saquon Barkley. They set up that tush push formation, but there's so many things that they're able to do off of that.
Oh, man. That was, of course, the 52-yard run by Saquon Barkley when they lined up for the tush push. It was 16-13 there in the fourth quarter, and I'm glad that we got one big play in the crowd. That was Merrill Reese and Mike Quick on WIP. Watch it in person, though, Chuck. I got to say, I don't even think it's a question. If you give me Amari and Hampton with a little bit of space or Saquon Barkley with a little bit of space, I'm taking Hampton. I mean,
I believe that. And, as he broke free, as Saquon broke free on that run, the thought crossed my mind, which was, does he know how to finish these runs still? Because he just hasn't had these this year. Like he's probably like, oh, I forgot what this feels like, being in open space with nobody between me and the end zone. I thought for a second he'd slow down and get caught, but he didn't.
No, he has enough straight line speed. Don't get me wrong. Saquon Barkley is a good back, but there were a couple runs on the night where you saw like big creases developing, and the Eagles fans would start like swelling and think the big play was coming. And with Hampton, I think he's hitting that hole like faster, and that there's just a little more juice. You want your running backs young, and man, the Eagles fall to 8-5. They are still leading the division. The fact that the Cowboys lost this week, gave them a little bit of a cushion. But it's so funny how when the Cowboys lost that game, when we were doing our Thursday night recap, we're like, well, the division, that's probably out. They're back up against it, but they got to win out. I know the Eagles' schedule is favorable, but they're still only 1.5 games out of the division. I give the Eagles or the Cowboys a better chance of making the playoffs by winning the division than I do making it as a wild card. They are not out of it. 2 out with 4 to play is not out of it with the way that these Eagles team, they can trick a game away.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair because they're definitely not going to earn a wild card spot, not with how tight the NFC race is right now. But look, man, Raiders, Commanders, Bills, Commanders. I know it's any given Sunday in this league and crazy things happen, but if the Eagles lose to the Raiders, Eagles fans have every reason in the world to light up WIP on the next morning talk show. They have every reason in the world to riot downtown because they should
lose
not,
one?
in any reality, lose that game.
Okay, they can lose to the Bills, though. Could they lose one to the Commanders? I think.
A divisional split would make sense, but the Commanders at this point, I don't know.
I think they have that in them. This Eagles team is
preying on their downfall.
There's just something sour about it, and there were a lot of Chiefs fans watching this game, maybe even Steelers and Ravens fans who are thinking about potential wild card situation. I don't think Colts fans are watching football anymore, and they're disappointed about what happened here because the Chargers are at 9-4. They are 3 losses ahead of the Chiefs. Forget about that.
There was a trio of Broncos fans in the stands at this game tonight that they showed on TV. Like, talk about a troll job.
I did not see them among the crowd. A lot of fun tonight. Let's take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to do some quarterback news, and then we'll get out, get into the LA traffic. Phillip Rivers is making a comeback? What? Back on NFL Daily. Sat down for the game. Mostly Eagles fans around me. But right in front of me was a man and his father with a Phillip Rivers Chargers jersey on. And it was just before the game started, as I'm scrolling my phone, that I see that Phillip Rivers is making a comeback. And I just assumed this was a fake Adam Schefter or Rap Sheet account. It's like, nope. Phillip Rivers is going to try out with the Indianapolis Colts on Tuesday, and if all goes well, they will sign him to their practice squad with an eye on potentially joining the team. Yes, this is the time for quarterback keeper presented by Snapdragon. I did not think that Phillip Rivers would be part of quarterback keeper presented by Snapdragon in the year 2025. What do you make of this?
When I first got the message about this evening in the Eastern time zone, I let out a hearty chuckle because, like you, I thought it was a joke. And then I did a double take and realized, oh no, this is serious and I need to write about this right now, which I did. And I pulled up Pro Football Reference just to get a little bit of, context, a little bit of a refresher in my brain about when was the last time Phillip Rivers played. 2020. We were in a pandemic in 2020. Phillip Rivers was still playing good football in 2020, and then he walked away from the game because age told him to, even if he was still playing good ball. It sent the Colts into their latest abyss at the quarterback position, which they thought they'd finally solve when they drafted Anthony Richardson. They didn't. They signed Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is now out for the year. And somehow we have circled all the way back to Phillip Rivers. The obvious reason is Shane Steichen and his history with Rivers from their time spent with the Chargers as his quarterbacks coach, his interim offensive coordinator before Rivers went on to the Colts. It is insane. And it perfectly captures the desperation that the Colts find themselves experiencing right now after losing Daniel Jones and watching their once solid lead in the AFC South slipping through their fingers and just fearing another late season collapse at the hands of the Texans or maybe even the Jaguars this year. And this is the only thing they can figure out. I don't know what happens, but I do want to point this out. Pro Football Hall of Fame decided to chime in on this tonight.
Yes.
If Rivers is signed to the active roster, his Hall of Fame clock resets. He's a semifinalist for the class this year. That's how long he's been out of football. This is crazier than pulling Jeff Saturday out of the booth to coach the Colts.
It is so Colts. You know who Phillip Rivers' offensive coordinator was for that Colts team? By the way, Phillip Rivers had a quietly great way to end his career where he played very well for a surprising 11-win Colts team and went toe-to-toe in a playoff game that they only lost by a field goal, and he played very well with Josh Allen against the Bills. They lost 27-24. Do you know who was his coordinator that year?
It was the guy who lost tonight, Nick Sirianni.
That's right. I love Phillip Rivers. He's maybe my favorite quarterback of all time. He's been wanting to make this comeback like year after year, and no one really wanted him to do it for the first couple of years, and then it just never happened. It's 5 years later. It's insane. And yet, I'm sick enough. I do want it to happen. Riley Leonard is not 100%, and he might not even be ready for Sunday. Watch that tape. He actually played okay. I think they would start Riley Leonard over Phillip. I can't believe it.
Yeah, no, I thought he played pretty well in relief of Daniel Jones in that loss.
I can't believe this is a thing. The problem is Charvarius Ward is entering the concussion protocol for a third time this season. That's probably it for his season. They have another concussion for Braden Smith, their right tackle. He's probably out this week, maybe beyond. DeForest Buckner's not back. Sauce Gardner's not back. Like, the chances of Phillip Rivers, even in a heroic Hollywood scenario, playing well enough to actually compete with this team is maybe not high enough, and yet I want to see it. Life is short, and that's what Phillip Rivers is thinking. And who cares about Hall of Fame clocks? I don't need a Phillip Rivers versus Eli Manning debate in a couple months.
I mean, look, we got multiple seasons of Joe Flacco writing a similar story. We have Aaron Rodgers, over 40 years old, having one of the best games of his last few years.
Yeah, but he didn't
take
he didn't take 5 years off.
He's also not 44 years old, which Philip Rivers turned on Monday. But I will say the schedule has never cleared better for Philip Rivers to make a comeback than right now, because the high school football team that he coaches lost in the state semifinal in Alabama on November 28th. So he's got the time.
Tom Brady was 44 years old when he led the NFL in touchdowns and yards for the Buccaneers. It was his second to last season. I thought he should have won the MVP that year. I thought that was his best year with the Bucs. It was not the year that they won the Super Bowl. He just got edged out for the MVP by Rodgers, right? And I think Philip Rivers has about a 0.1% chance of playing at that level, and yet it'd be fun. Let the old kid sling it. And who knows? Maybe he could be their quarterback for 2026, because it's probably not going to be Daniel Jones. I don't really know. Daniel Jones, it was confirmed, is going to have surgery on a torn Achilles tendon, and we're going to end up talking about this in the offseason and later this season, but it creates a really difficult situation because he is a free agent. I assume you're not going to use the franchise tag on a guy with an Achilles tendon, but it would make sense for him to want to stay with the Colts if they still have the same coach. And I'm already hearing a little bit of buzz, like if they lose out, Gordon Irsay is a new owner, essentially. They usually want a fresh start. Like, just because they got a lot of bad luck doesn't mean Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard are necessarily safe. And maybe that's why you pull the ripcord and you truly believe that it's Rivers that could save the day.
Yeah, I mean, this is a desperation move that fits, the Colts in recent memory. Chris Ballard has dodged getting fired, once, if not twice already. So if they were to lose out, I would not be shocked at all. I would be a little bit more surprised because I think Steichen's done a good job of coaching. I also think that he's had a tough hand dealt to him by the decisions made by the personnel department, drafting Anthony Richardson 4th overall and never getting him to quite fit with his coach. The orbital bone fracture landing him on IR aside, it felt like that was kind of a lost cause anyway, which is what led them to Daniel Jones, the competition,
Fair.
Daniel Jones winning the job, all of that stuff. But it's tough because now this is the inverse Sam Darnold, and it also kind of relates to Kirk Cousins and his Achilles injury, which is that, like, an Achilles at this point in the season means he's going to miss probably half of next season. You don't know if he's going to be the same guy when he comes back from the Achilles. Mobility is one of his strengths, and if he's lost some of that because of the Achilles, that takes away his value.
Yeah.
And unlike Darnold with the Vikings last year, coming off of a great season that ended in disaster, you don't have that same strength to make a case to bring him back, but you do have the need that the Vikings thought they didn't. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you basically can't count on Daniel Jones. He's just someone to have in the building if Shane Steichen is there, but you need to come up with a completely separate plan at quarterback and assume you're not going to get anything out of Daniel Jones, at least for a good chunk of next season. They're at Seattle, the Colts, in Week 15. Oh, man. Philip Rivers, potentially, making his first start in 5 years on Monday Night Football. Shook me, you, YouTube Live, December 22nd. Couple days before Christmas.
Oh, the best gift ever.
We got to make this happen. That was Quarterback Keeper, presented by Snapdragon. Learn more at snapdragon.com/laptops. Yes, Chucky.
Do you think he still has the Sprinter van decked out for film study that he had driving from San Diego to LA back in the day?
I don't think there's a large market. I think he still has that thing. Who is he selling that to? Maybe Jeremiah could use that coming up for work. I'll have to ask him. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun over at SoFi tonight. Thank you to my friend Chris Babona producing the show. We got Lavender in the back. We got Walker on the 1s and 2s. We will be back in this studio on Tuesday. Hit the button. I said we're gonna keep this short so we can get out. I didn't. Nick, you're gonna be back with me later this week with Ollie Connolly, by the way, the all-underrated team. But before that, we still got a TNF. And before that, me, Jordan Rodriguez, Colleen Wolfe on Tuesday. We'll see you next Tuesday.